Are you ready to quit your 9 to 5 job and start a business of your own? Well, you're in the right place, my friend. Welcome to the Second Act Success Career Podcast. I am your host, Shannon Russell. I am a former television producer turned business owner, career transition coach, and boy mom. My mission is to help you produce your best life. This podcast will teach you how to get from where you are now to where you want to be and how to build a business that fits your life and lights you up. Let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast. Today on Second Act Success, I am excited to introduce you to someone I have known for decades. Raquel Bruno is a talent producer. She's also an executive producer, and she runs her own company called Drive Entertainment Group. She's here to talk about pivoting from working as an employee at MTV Networks to creating her own entertainment business. She's expanded, she's gone out on her own. She is now a mom, and guess what? She is also a DJ. Yep, she DJs on Twitch, and that is what truly brings her joy. Raquel is such a ball of energy. I cannot wait for her to share her second act success story with you right now. Raquel Bruno, it's so great to have you here. Thank you for being on the show.
I'm so honored to be here. It's like I've shown up with family being on your podcast, truly. We're so used to being on the chaos of a red carpet, and it's just so nice to actually have a conversation outside of noise around us and, "Oh my god, let's grab so and so for the carpet."
Hustle, hustle. I know. And we have known each other for so long. Actually, we began at MTV in New York City, but I think you were there a little before me and then I was there, but we only really met like on the red carpet many years later. I think we knew of each other, but it's just so nice to see how our careers have evolved and now we're both mothers and I love it and I want to be able to tell your story because you have so many things cooking. But let's start back from the beginning. Where did your career begin?
So I was very lucky. I kicked on the door, but I was very lucky that I was able to work at Nickelodeon as an intern. And through there, I knew I wanted to go into the Viacom family 'cause I was a huge MTV kid, grew up with it, and I knew I wanted to work around music. So I worked at Nickelodeon, Nick at Night, launched TV Land and VH1. I was able to work at VH1 for a little bit. And then I landed at MTV Radio and I was thrilled. That's really where the beginning of what I do as a talent booker and producer really began. A little bit at Nick at Night and TV Land when I got to work with some casts, but then really moving over into music, that's where it all really truly began.
If I'm not mistaken, you did radio in college. Is that right?
I did. My music director at WGLS, which is now Rowan Radio, and in fact, I donated not that long ago because I spent so much of my time when I was at Rowan or Glassboro State at the time, just spending hours programming the radio station. So I donated money and I said, I have two caveats for it. One, it has to stay a music channel. And two, I want to have my name across that music library with all that beautiful vinyl because I'm such a vinyl head. And sure enough, I was able to do that. So the library is named after my name. And I'm very proud of that because I spent so much time actually programming a lot of the music, putting together the music for WGLS, Rowan Radio.
Wow, I love it. And then it just kind of has trickled through your career even up until the present, and we'll get to that. But yeah,
Yes.
so I knew music was always in your blood and getting into the Viacom world, like you said, starting at Nickelodeon. And I've been in that building at 1515 Broadway in New York and
Yes.
just feeling the excitement because when you start there, what were we, 21, 22, or even as interns, younger than
Yes.
that? And
Right.
you're just like, "This is what everyone is into." Like, all of our friends back at college and all of our friends in the real world at that time. And so you're in this kind of dream job. So what was it like for you to start out and be there?
So it's funny, when I was starting out, one of the channels that was coming together that I helped put together with the acquisitions team and I was working for, it was when Comedy Channel and formed together and then became Comedy Central. So it was exciting to be a part of that. And I'm sitting there going, wow, this is the life. I get to come here every day with the Nickelodeon brand being what it was at the time. And I know that it's now problematic with the things that are going on, but in New York City, it was a very magical place to be at Nickelodeon, to be around all the creatives, people walking in and out of that building at 1515. And then eventually, of course, TRL was out of there and just the amount of creativity, just you could feel that frenetic energy of excitement and creativity. You just would see so many great people. And we still to this day when I get excited to see folks there, because I mean they have a couple different offices, but 1515 was just a very magical place. And then of course when MTV2 launched, it was totally my music. So it was very exciting, and being able to be at, even our legendary holiday parties, we had a great time. I cannot speak more highly about being a Viacom kid and being in that amazing creative headspace. That I think is what I miss most about being a solopreneur, is being around people like yourself and the folks that launched TV Land and the folks that ran MTV Radio, just working together, being next to MTV News. We were on the same floor as the MTV News folks. So I got to see Kurt Loder and Sway and all the folks that would come into our studio and record their lines, because we had them doing we had did TRL and news briefs and what have you. We did all of that with MTV Radio. Anything you saw on channel, we mirrored for MTV Radio. So it was a great, exciting time, really and truly.
So you were there for many, many years and still work there here and there with your own business. But let's talk about when you launched your own business, Drive Entertainment. It was around '07. Is that right?
Yes, 2006 is when I
Okay.
was incorporated, at the very end of 2006, and then 2007 is really when it came together, and oddly enough, it was some of my amazing folks at MTV that said, "Oh my goodness, Raquel's on her own." I had my friend Jennifer Birnbach put my name in for a logo when it was launching. I had Stephen Kipp, who is a good friend of mine, who also put my name into the mix. And then my very first boss as an intern, Diane Rabina, not only became what was my first boss as an intern and then as assistant, but then she was my first client when she was in the middle of launching FearNet. So I had the opportunity of working on lots of great shows and projects because of my affiliation with MTV Networks. And so I was back and forth to LA quite often from the very beginning of Drive, and it was fantastic. I always wanted to be an East Coast talent producer. LA I love, and I love being there, and my away game is sometimes even better than sometimes my home game, my husband likes to joke about. But I like also being someone from New York City, because I tell it to you straight, not that my friends in LA don't, but what you see is what you get with me, and I'm always trying to be solution based, but there's so many of us out on the West Coast that I felt like, "You know what? My family is here. I love being a New Yorker and being able to travel whatever I need to do from the East Coast." And especially after pandemic, I mean, everything is done through this anyway a lot of the time, so if I have to get on a plane, I'll get on a plane.
When you opened the business, what was your goal with it? So you had been working in talent in your different departments at Viacom, and you wanted to really produce talent and create your own events. What was your vision?
I wanted to be, and I still do, I love being able to produce TV and film, especially documentaries. I get to work with an incredible director named John Scheinfeld. I've also since done from Kings from Queens, which is the Run DMC doc, working with Believe. So I knew I wanted to, it was twofold. One, I wanted to help elevate and amplify talent in a producer's role. In the beginning of Drive, I actually was managing people because I felt like, okay, how do I work my way over to being more in the producing space? Because as a talent booker, and I love talent booking, but we tend to get pigeonholed. We just do. We tend to be put in a corner, and it's really unfortunate. And shout out to all my talent producers out there, because it is a very thankless job. And I talk about this often, and I almost wish, like, yes, there's the casting society and what have you, but they're really for talent producers. It's a very specific skill. We're not always put into certain protections, and there should be. So I joined the Producers Guild because I had had it at that point enough credits as a producer, but there's a very specific skill set that comes with, and you've seen it on the carpet, with the relationships, with understanding the innuendo of the undercurrent of what's happening. Is talent available to do it? Are they in the right headspace to do this project? Like working closely with their reps and really understanding where they are at that moment in time when you go to turn the mic on, the camera on, what have you, and working within that to even get them, jokingly, like, get them to the Greek. So I started out doing management. I was managing a guitar player. I was managing a director. I started working with Glenn Matlock, who's from the Sex Pistols, who I adore. I still work with him to this day. And I was doing management, and I realized that's not really, it's similar to what I want to do, but I really want to help produce and give a platform to talent. So talent producing is still very much a part of what I do, but then I'm also on the other side as a co-EP and an EP, creating and developing projects to bring them from the ether and build them up. I create moments on red carpets, on documentaries, in digital, in TV. It really just depends, but I also like being behind the scenes and creating those opportunities for talent as well. So it's definitely where the 2 dovetail together.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that that's what a lot of people don't understand what a talent producer does. Like, you're not just working with the talent, you're taking the project, you're seeing who makes a good fit, and
Right.
then I've got to speak to not only the talent but their reps and it's really a lot of coordinating, right? Just
A
getting
lot of
everyone on the same
coordinating.
page.
Yes, and when someone says, "Well, what exactly do you do?" I say, "Okay, if you watch the Oscars, the Grammys, the Emmys, there's someone behind the scenes that is actually making all of that happen, whether they're a solo presenter, are they co-presenting, who's our host, who's the band, are we doing walk-on music, if there's a performance, is it a 10-minute performance with a medley? I've worked on Miss Universe where we've had to put together 2 to 3 songs within one performance, and also what's gonna work with dancers, with do they need hair and makeup, what's their wardrobe looking like? When I've done the Disney holiday specials, that coordinating that within the parks is just impossible, and yet we've somehow done it. So that's the thing. Without talent, there is no show. So that's why I say talent bookers really need to get the love they deserve because without us, there really is not a show, especially when it comes to bringing talent to whatever stage it is. I hate to say it, but it's true. And I have to voice this. We are the first to get blamed and the last to get thanked, and I say that because I've been there, I know my fellow colleagues have been there, and I just always also want to raise the awareness of what it takes to actually do talent booking and producing. It is a Herculean task.
Mhm. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And it's also being that right kind of person because sometimes actual show producers and directors don't have necessarily the personality to get so and so celebrity on that red carpet to say what you need them to say. And it takes someone who has that rapport, that
Yes.
personality, that charisma like you do to really bring it all together and make it happen. And even the couple of times that we've been on the red carpet together, it's, yeah, so and so is walking down, but we have to talk to their people, get them to come over and want to answer our question or talk to our VJ. And it takes a lot of, like, talking sweet and getting it to work to get your end project, your end
It's
result.
creating a safe space because at the end of the day, it's talent. You're in the midst of thousands of people on a carpet. How is your one stop going to feel safe for them to speak, openly about it and making sure you're also not doing any gotcha moments? That's something that I am very careful about. So it really is a delicate balance. It's a delicate dance. I, as a talent producer, am only as good as my word. And that is a very sacred thing for me.
What are some of your favorite projects you've worked on?
I'm very proud of the work I have done with Logo, creating Logo New Now Next Awards with Chris Wiley and Dave Mace and Logo itself, amplifying LGBTQ voices was very important, giving Lady Gaga her TV debut, working closely with folks like Perry Turcotte, and we did that, Jeremiah Silva, who's gone on to do amazing work. So working with just great teams like that, where we were able to, for a few years, just create these very funny moments, working with the best of the best with RuPaul and Drag Race and all those brilliant minds. And then also working like bringing back Soul Train Awards and working with the team at Centric when Centric was around. And we did such great work with creating Stevie Wonder, A Message of Peace. I mean, we had everyone from Janelle Monáe to Sting on that stage on the UN floor. Those are some of my favorite moments where I got to say, "Wow, I did this." Or working with Alicia Keys when we did an entire concert in Times Square in the rain with some of the best and recording that. And then working on my documentaries, working with John Scheinfeld on Herb Albert Is or Sergio Mendez's doc, like Gary Marshall. I got to work with Gary when I worked at TV Land, and then being able to tell his story that ran on ABC was just amazing. Working on the Run DMC doc called Kings from Queens. I am a huge Run DMC fan, so being able to be in that room and make those choices and help pick the talent to tell their love of Run DMC was iconic for me. And working on the Disney shows, being a part of that for 4 years was a huge, huge, like, badge of honor for me. I had a handicapped uncle, he had cerebral palsy, and his favorite place on earth was Disney, and my first earliest memories are going with him in his wheelchair and him being so happy to be around Mickey Mouse and all the incredible characters and just being he was so happy, he was the happiest when we were there in Florida. in his honor, be able to work on a show that I know he'd be proud of if he was still here today. It was just like, okay, I've arrived and I've done what I was meant to do.
Mm. Wow. Chills. Yeah. How amazing. And now, all of these years later, now you're a mom with 2 kids. You still have your business, but you have a lot of other fun things in the works. I mean, actually, for quite some time, you have been a DJ as well. And I really want to dive into everything you're doing on Twitch and with your DJ life.
That is probably my next to being with my kids and working in what we do, I think that's probably where I really truly find my muse, where I always joke around and say I meet my muse at the decks because you never know what I'm gonna be playing that day. I don't really pre-program what I'm playing, and I spin vinyl. So, I was a DJ even when I was at MTV. On Wednesday nights, I would be at Idlewild, and I would be up till, bars are and clubs are open till 4, if not later. So we were open till 4 in the morning. I'm closing it down, DJing, and then I'd go home. Sometimes we'd even go to a diner, early morning diner to run, go to bed for a few hours, and then I would show up at 9:30 or sometimes 10 at MTV because we were allowed to start late because we worked such late hours, and even going to shows when I would do meet and greets, that was still working as much
Mhm.
as I loved it. So I was DJing in the mid to late 90s and the early aughts in real life. I was at Black and White and Niagara and Idlewild, which I loved. So there weren't a lot of us female DJs. There was a handful of us. Joe Murray was at Motor City, amazing DJ. I had another girl, Julie, who I love, that was in the mix. But I started DJing at Dollhouse, which was a clothing store, who was one of my best friends now, Nicole. So I was lugging my box of records anywhere they wanted a DJ, I would go. But then the pandemic hit, and I remember the feeling I had during 9/11, which was so incredibly helpless living in the West Village. I saw the second plane hit. I can't not provide for people a connective tissue. It's something I know I'm good at is bringing people together. So I started DJing on Instagram Live. I kept getting booted. It was so frustrating. There's a few folks that were there from the very beginning 4 years ago. And then a friend of mine said, go on Twitch. I said, well, isn't Twitch for gamers? And she said, absolutely not. There's DJs on there. Go ahead, you'll enjoy it. And thank God I did. It's now 4 years later. We actually, this week, we just had our fourth Twitch anniversary. We may have another party for it. 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, I'm on Wednesday nights and Saturdays with a couple of read trains and pop-ups in between. And this was when everyone was telling me, "Get rid of your vinyl, you need to go digital." I'm like, "I will never get rid of my vinyl." In the last 5 years, it is boomed again with people now can't move fast enough to figure out how to get these factories to make vinyl again. And I'm glad I have original pressings of things because I love the tactile of a record,
Mhm.
hearing the warm sounds, seeing the artwork. So we've created a safe space. We're up to 3,200 followers, and we usually have between 30 and 100 people at any given moment tuning in. Sometimes I'm on 4 hours at a clip, and we play everything from funk to punk to house to new wave. That's what I spin, and 45s, LPs, and so I really truly love it. Love being able to do house sets where I'm able to just do a beat match and do what I love doing. The best compliments I get on there are when people come on and say, "I just needed to hear this music today." As Shannon says, "Let the music play." So another Shannon. So the thing is, it's been my mental therapy and it's helped a lot of people. And that to me shows that I'm a light worker on this planet. I'm able to help through community. People feel good with music and just being together. That has helped a lot of people. And that is when I feel probably my best when I'm with my kids and when I'm able to create music in a safe environment.
How can we find you on Twitch? Well,
So on
people
Twitch, it's twitch.tv/DJ Aviva. Aviva is my middle name and it's all one word. And you can find us there. So please come and dance with us because always, you never know what you're going to get from day to day on that channel.
would you have known that you'd be on this platform called Twitch when you were back in college working at the radio station, right? And how funny is that
No,
evolution?
I never would have thought that. And I have to tell you, for now, because I know Twitch will be going through some changes, I'm thrilled that I was able to through the pandemic. I needed a lifeline myself. We're humans. We're meant to be together, especially in production. Not being able to be live in production and being on a set. And, my son didn't get to see his grandparents for a couple months, not having a Christmas with them. It was devastating. And that's why I think it's okay for people to just be. If you're having a moment, just being able to take a day off and allow yourself to have grace is something that we don't always talk about, and I think we need to normalize those conversations. So being able to dance and to say, "You know what? I'm taking the afternoon off. I just wanna listen to some '80s music and say 'F it.'"
Yeah.
No one says you can't.
Mm-mm. And you provide that and you have that community
I'm
and it
proud
just
of
brings
that.
you so much joy. Like,
So much joy. The folks that have come through, some of them have been on there from day one. My mods, we have what's called the mods. I have to give a huge shout out to them. Jamie Roberts, who's a friend of mine, also helped me within the mix, which we've also created. She's there all the time. We have a man named Doug and Michael and Kelly, Thaddeus is a friend of mine who I met through the industry. They've been there to support me, to let me do what I need to do. But without them, I couldn't really focus on just the music aspect of it. So I owe them a lot because they do it just because the love of supporting.
yeah.
And for me, I love supporting the audience, they support me, and it's just that kind of energy is the energy I wanna be around because you just want people to be at their best and feel their best.
You are bringing the light. I just want to bring up, I find it so funny when we talk about our second acts or later in life, how our careers evolve, that you are doing something that not a lot of moms are doing with your music. And what kind of an example are you setting to your kids that you can still be this creative and find a passion and follow it and help others at the same time? How does that make you feel? How cool is that?
There's moments where I've felt guilty. I went to Japan for 10 days and I loved it. And I just had to be in the mindset of like, okay, I'm here. I have to enjoy it. But I had guilt. I wanted them to be with me, but they're too young to appreciate right now. They're 2 and 6 to be in Japan. The time will come. I want them to look at their mom and say, I can do anything I put my mind to. My parents gave me that, and I'm very, very lucky to have had parents that supported me and said, "Look, you wanna be career," because they're singers, songwriters. They're both singers and songwriters, and they were teachers. They said, "You can do anything you want, but do it to the best of your ability, and that it will support you 100%." I want my kids to follow their heart, follow their North Star, and say, you know what, as creative as something is, and I think my son might want to be an engineer. I think my daughter may want to go into dance or even be a stylist. She picks out her own clothes at 2 and a half. So it's crazy. I said, you know what, do it. But creativity needs to be at the bottom line of that because I want you to be happy. And I know we could be creative in anything that we do. And I think a lot of people don't realize it. You can be creative in accounting, you can be creative in production. Anywhere you are, you can be creative because you're creating something out of nothing. That takes creativity and being in that mindset of going, okay, let me not just be, I keep saying every day, like being on a hamster wheel. There's days where I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel and it's exhausting. But then you have to allow yourself time throughout that day to be creative. And for me, that's DJing. That's where my best thoughts and memories and creativity comes from. So I want my kids to look up at me and say, wow, I was able to do something with Blippi. I brought Blippi to the Seattle, Space Needle. My kid was like, "Wait, he couldn't understand how I did that. He's like, "Do you know Blippi?" I said, "Well, I kinda know Blippi." And that was something recently where I can say I'm proud of because I had a hand in that, or worked on Paley Weekend, and we had the Paw Patrol characters were there, and my kids were so ecstatic to see that. I think that's why I do what I do. I wanna have a sustainable job, but also be able to do the fun stuff, but work hard at it. So, being able to show that for my kids is something that's super important.
Mhm. I love that. And let's talk about the changes that the entertainment industry has been having between COVID, the pandemic, the strikes. Let's say there's been a lot of instability. It just
Mhm.
has been very unpredictable. How is that affecting your business? And let's talk about kind of where you are now and what you're thinking about pivoting into a little bit more.
Absolutely, and I have to say I'm so proud that you've done what you're doing because first of all, I love the name Second Act Success. I love the fact that you took the reins and said, "You know what? Right now, where I am in my life and where I'm at with my kids, I need something a little more sustainable." That's kind of where I'm at right now because I could easily move myself to LA and be working 24/7, but then it takes me away from my kids, and right now I feel they are in their years that I want to enjoy the time with them. So what does that present? What does that look like for me? So while we've had an incredible run at 18 years and we're still working, we're still doing great projects, but I've definitely noticed a bit of a downturn. It taps into your scarcity thought process. I'm trying to work through that myself where you have the ability to go, Well, there it is. I've gone vine to vine to vine, jumping from project to project, and it's worked itself out. I've somehow landed on my feet. Well, right now it's been quiet for a lot of folks. And I thought to myself, I have to take control of how it affects me. So, how do I do that? And how do I also help people that might have been in the same situation that I've been in? And so I'm working into moving into coaching and mentoring. We're calling it Thrive with Drive, which is another aspect of what Drive Entertainment does. And it's working with those, whether they're in entertainment or media or a creative space. I'm the creative that's helping other creatives and being behind the scenes and helping them understand the skill sets that they may have, they may not even realize. So I'm really thinking of them as talent, thinking of them as you're being behind the scenes. How do we put you in front of the camera? How do we put you on that stage? How do we put you in front of folks that, when people say, well, I don't know if I could do that job because I don't have this skill set in it. Well, let's create the skill set so that you're able to be in a situation where they can look at you and be hireable. I think also for me, helping women find their voice, there's still a huge disparity in what we do with how we get paid, with the amount of tech for women. There's not enough women directors. There's just not enough of us or of women or women that present as a woman. And I think that I need to help continue to create that space for folks when they feel maybe stuck where they are in their career and thinking, okay, what is my second act?
Mhm.
To the point that you've done with all the folks you're working with and have a podcast about it. Where am I going? There's a lot of folks that have been executives for so long, they don't even know how to think differently than what they've been on the road that they've been on. Let's take you off that road. Or let's take you off the highway for a minute and see what the side roads look like so that we can help build upon the skill set that you've had for so long that you may not even realize that you have.
Yeah.
So we're creating that and also helping folks find their work-life balance. So it's a combination of many things, helping women have the strength to be on a stage or how to pitch or how to be in the room and be strong to be in the room and not feel that the imposter syndrome takes over. So it's multifaceted, but it's helping be a coach to a lot of folks that may not realize that they have more years in front of them. And how do we get there?
Yep. And I love that it's an extension of your business, right? You're still running Drive Entertainment, you're still doing all of your talent producing and running these larger shows, but you're able to help other creatives at the same time. And you are the person who books the talent in a lot of these situations. So you know how to get that person to be that visible presence and get their voice heard and step out of their comfort zone. So you're the perfect person to be helping these others.
Thank you. It's a work in progress and it's every day. One of the sayings I love is carpe diem. I've said it ever since I saw Dead Poet Society. I fell in love with that movie. And carpe diem was such a big part of that film. I'm like, you know what? That is a mantra that I can get behind because you have to seize the day every day,
Yep.
make the best of your life as it is. I can't sugarcoat it. We were talking about earlier. I've had down days. I've had days where I go, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why is this so difficult? And then you allow yourself the space to do that and to feel those feelings. Because if you don't emote, then it just gets worse. And I'm the type of person that I have to talk it out. I have to be in the lab to work through how it's going to look. And every day I'm molding and fixing and creating. So that's where I'm at. And so I thank you for allowing me to tell my story on your podcast because I think it's important. Also, again, it's working together and having shorthand with folks that you've worked with before and being able to kinda give, like, a wink, wink, like, "Okay, I got you, I understand you, and
Mhm.
how do I help you as well?" Because that's what really especially in production, we have a tendency to work together because there is that trust factor, and that's something that is a skill set that I also when you find your people that you can work with and trust, you already have won half
Yeah.
the battle.
And we're so fortunate because I think our industry, the entertainment industry is so niche and it just no one understands it unless you're in it. And for us too, and I've had other MTV people like Vinny Potasivo here on the show and just talking about how that is a family bond of where we started our career and we learned
Yes.
so many fundamental foundations that have led us to this point. And it's a testament that so many of us are still friendly and in touch and can call on each other even after not seeing each other for so long, and to know that we're in it to help each other in whatever is happening. but you have your DJing, you've got your business, now you have your mentoring and coaching, and it's all still evolving, right? You're still figuring it
It
out.
is. And speaking of Vinny, I have to give a big shout out to him because we have been in touch through the years since we both have left MTV. We've worked together on projects. He's hired me a couple times. I've worked with him on this part of what we're doing. And it is working with familiar faces. You feel comfortable and you feel like you have your squad to kind of like get it to the next level. It really was one big brainstorming session a lot of the times. And folks from whether you were an assistant all the way up to the EP on a show, we were in the room together and we were able to have a voice. And that I think is lost these days, especially when we've had what being through the pandemic, it takes away from the human connection. So when you're able to actually work with people that you do love and know well and can be in the trenches together, it really makes a difference because you kind of let the walls go down a little bit. And that's where the real magic happens.
I feel your energy and your light, just knowing that there's good to come and a second act can evolve into a third and a fourth and a fifth, and that you take everything that you've learned up until now and you just keep adding on and you just keep seeing. And it's exciting even for you to sit here and be like, I'm figuring it out as I go and I'm trying these new things. And all I know is that I want the space to be creative and to be yourself. Well, let me ask you then. So, what is one thing that you would advise somebody who is thinking about taking a leap, starting that second act, whether it's entertainment or other? What advice would you give them?
Be a sponge. If it's an area of a space that you want to get involved with, like I can't tell you the amount of books that I've read in the last 2 weeks alone getting involved with groups that are kind of your backstop, giving you the tools in which you need to do it. And also just not being afraid to be vulnerable and reach out to people that are in the space and say, look, we are humans. We tend to be competitive, but at the same time, people are more willing to help than you realize. And I think as long as you come in with an open mind and also the ability to quid pro quo, I mean, let's help each other out in the process. That's the issue that we're having right now, which is why the industry is having a problem, is that a lot of folks that do control the money right now are being so holding in as opposed to, okay, let's collaborate and figure out how to make this work. And it's a sad state because, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and a lot of people are stuck in between, like us, that are sitting there going, we just want to work. We just want to have the ability to work and create good stuff. So I think that anyone who's looking to make a pivot, I think you have to really sit and do the shadow work and sit with yourself. What makes you tick? What are your pros and your cons? Like really put the mirror up and go, okay, what can I do? And where do I need to work on myself? Do I need to work on my emotional stuff, physically, mentally, spiritually? Really lay it out as a person and go, what is my bandwidth right now? And what do I think I can give to invest in myself? Because investing in yourself is a hard thing. We're so good at helping others. I said it to you earlier. Put
Mhm.
on your own oxygen mask and take care of you, and then the rest will resound out. You'll have the circles that go out after that. But if you don't invest in your own inner temple, then you can't really provide for people. And that is the hard work that I've been doing myself, going, okay, how can I take care of my family? How can I thrive in doing that? And also, what can I provide to other people? What does it look like? And really write it all down and take the time to do that. That is hard. Sitting in your own stuff is probably one of the hardest things I have ever done. Not easy work.
You need to look inside, look for your why. And we can be that way when we're in midlife and we're thinking about that second act. Like, this is the time to be choosy and to really do
Yes.
that research, like you said. And that shadow work is important because you don't want to just leap for the sake of leaping and try something new
Exactly.
and end up in the same place.
And we get stuck in that often. And I guilty as charged. And I think that we really need to realize the value in what we bring no matter what age.
Mhm.
And I think that you just, again, have to jump in. I'm doing my own fear tactic. I'm jumping in, going, okay,
Yep.
I'm not someone that likes to talk about it for too long. I always need to show what it is.
I
Anything can
love that.
happen. Turn off the outside noise. Don't look at the IG because if you start, because that's shiny, happy people, as REM said back, it's not the reality. It was camera angles and lots of lights and editing, and that's not the reality of it. listen to yourself. Go deep enough to meditate and think about what it is that truly makes you happy. DJing truly makes me happy. And who knows, maybe one day I'll start DJing IRL when my kids are older again. I'll be grandma at the decks. I don't even care because I love it so much. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, this is what makes me happy. If it makes you happy, then do it.
So inspirational, Raquel. Really. Thank you for this conversation.
You
I want to make sure that we let our listeners know everywhere that they can connect with you. So, where are all the places?
You can find me, Raquel, at driveentertainmentgroup.com, or I am on LinkedIn. On Instagram, if you want to see the fun stuff, that's Raquel Loves Drive. And I'm definitely around and available. And hopefully by then, Drive Entertainment Group website will be up.
Yes, yes. I'm going to link to everything too, so it's easy for
Perfect.
everyone to find. And it's been so much fun to chat with you and
Been
reminisce.
so much fun. And I want to thank you, Shannon, for being an absolute inspiration as someone who was at MTV Networks and found your voice and helping others, myself included, with second act success. Because with second act success, you're showing people you can actually have a life outside of whatever industry or corporation you might have been a part of, that there is a world out there. As much as we might have loved those worlds, you can still reinvent yourself and find a roadmap to that.
Thank you. That means so much coming from you. Thank you.
100%. Absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing. It means a lot to all of us that listen.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I hope you found some gems of inspiration and some takeaways to help you on your path to second act success. To view show notes from this episode, visit secondactsuccess.co. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Reviews only take a few moments and they really do mean so much. Thank you again for listening. I'm Shannon Russell, and this is Second Act Success.